Hi, this is Dr. Vatiri, and we're coming down to the home stretch of our Dominion Diet section on the Eat Sheet. As you can see, there's a lot of information we need to cover, and the more you can familiarize yourself with this information and develop that ownership principle, the better off you're going to do. Now, there's a couple of more fruits that I did not include on the previous session or lesson, and those are the like the berries and the grapes and prunes and raisins and such. And of course, like everything else, they have a caloric value, and the way we measure it is kind of simple. Like in the cups again, like a cup of berries could be anywhere between 50 to 60 calories or 70 calories, depending on the size of the berry as it fits into the cups. And when if we take that same type of fruit and we allow it to or we have a dried version of it, like a grape to a raisin, the raisin per cup, like grapes per cup, may be say 9 or 10 points, maybe 80, 90, 100 calories for the grape, depending on the type of grape. But the raisin, being that it's in a dried form of it, you can obviously fit more raisins in a cup. So a cup of raisins, even though it's a fruit, could be close to 200 calories. And just to understand that when the fruit becomes a dried fruit, the sugar content, it's not like it's more sugar because it can't come from nowhere, but it becomes more of a simple sugar. The complex nature of the carbohydrate breaks down and it becomes a higher glycemic index food. So berries, as a rule of thumb, are somewhere between 5 to 6 points, 8 points. I believe blackberries are a little bit more higher in a caloric value than would be a strawberry. But nonetheless, you just check on the food, on the Eat Sheet, and you're able to calculate it. Now, we want to add these fruits into your diet because especially the berries and the skin of the berries are very powerful in antioxidants along with other vitamins and minerals. So it's a good idea to balance out your fruits with having an assortment of berries in your regular diet. Now, the last category is the butter and oil category, and this is like one of the it's like an unnecessary necessity. Most of the time we cook with these products, and they're necessary to enhance the flavor of certain foods and such. But what we want to be able to do is to minimize our overall usage of it, especially when it comes to the butters and the oils that are more of the saturated fats or the hydrogenated oils. Again, like I mentioned earlier about the olive oil, which is a very good choice as long as we don't superheat the olive oil. The more you heat the olive oil, it turns into a very much of a saturated fat instead of an unsaturated fat, and its ability to deliver that nutritious level of increasing your high density lipoproteins or your good cholesterol becomes minimized because it's heated. Now, one of the things that is a suggestion is that if you're going to saute certain herbs that you're going to put on your grains or on your vegetables, or with your meats, and you want to do it in oil, one of the suggestions is just take the herbs, say it's garlic or onion or some pepper or cilantro, and you sort of break it up a little bit, sort of crack the outer layer so it becomes exposed to the air, and then you put it right in a jar of oil. Get some extra virgin olive oil, which is the better of the choices when it comes to the olive oil, and allow it to soak a day or 2 or 3. And what will happen is that the flavor from those herbs, the garlic or the cilantro or the onion or the pepper, will seep into the oil, and some of the nutritious value of it will also seep into the oil. And then within a few days, the oil is going to be with a robust flavor of whatever the herbs you put on there in the jar. And then when you pour it on your food, what you're going to have is a very flavorful food without heating up the oil. And I use this all the time when I'm cooking some rice or some pasta to put it on there so I can get reap the benefits of that extra virgin olive oil by keeping it in its natural form. Nonetheless, when we're dealing with the olive oil and butter for that matter, it has calories. So olive oil does have a certain amount of calories, 120 calories per tablespoon. So we have to, we could use it, but we need to use it sparingly and not overabundantly. Okay, so it can become problematic if you're putting it on all your foods, or you're drenching your foods in and cooking with it. It becomes problematic because it adds way too many calories that we don't need. Now, the other issues we need to deal with is when we have somewhat of the complex foods, say like the soups or stews, that we have a number of different components that make it up. So for example, when you look at say you have a soup, and it has some starch in it, some noodles, and it has the soup itself, the liquid form, which is the byproduct of water soaking in with the bones and the meat of the chicken or the beef to give the broth, and then you have the vegetables. And what you're going to notice is when you look on the back of the can, there's going to be some numbers there. It's going to have calories from calories from carbohydrate, calories from fat, calories from protein, and that is, in that case, it's okay to start separating out the foods by using whatever's on the back of the can to put it into your categories. Now, if you're going to make a fresh soup, which I suggest. What you're going to do is realize what you're putting into the making of the soup. So if you're using, say, making a chicken soup, and you're putting in some cooked chicken into the soup, if you're putting in a half a pound with the bone and everything, well, you calculate that goes into the protein family. And then because you're going to end up eating the chicken in the soup, and the same thing with the amount of rice or pasta that you're putting into the soup, and the same amount with the vegetables. Now, if you make a huge container of soup, and there's, you have the whole container itself is 1,000 calories, and you're eating, 20% of the soup, you're splitting it between 5 people, and you're having 20% of that, then you're having 200 calories from the soup, and you can break it down accordingly. Now, I'm not asking you to become a math major or some type of mathematician to be breaking it down, but you want to do it within reason, so you can have this, again, the ownership of recording down what you're eating, okay? So it has the correct proportions, because if you have a soup and the larger bulk, like 80% of the soup is filled with rice or pasta, then what happens is you're overpopulating your soup with carbohydrates. It's always good to add a lot of vegetables into the soup, again, for the principles not only of nutrition, but to take up space. And that's the most critical area, because if you're hungry, you're going to eat, and what we want you to eat is something nutritious, but never go from the table that you're starving, like you're still hungry. So it's important that we add a lot of vegetables into the soups that we're making. Another favorite in and amongst folks is having the pizza. They have the Friday night pizza night, or there was some leftovers, or my wife didn't want to cook, or my husband brought home a pizza. So, it's not a criminal offense to have a pizza, but we also have to understand that the pizza packs a big punch of calories, okay? It could be close to 2 to 250 calories just for the slice itself. Forget about the cheese that goes on it. The amount of sauce that you put on the pizza it's not enough to put in any category. It's not enough to say, well, it had some vegetables in there because it was tomato sauce. It's a small amount. Now, tomato sauce or tomatoes have some redeeming qualities because of the lycopene in the tomato. It's a very powerful antioxidant. It's healthy and has a nutritious value to the body. But on the other hand, there's enough research that says that having too much tomato or tomato byproducts, for certain people that have various types of arthritis, it can actually flare up the arthritis. So, it has a double-edged sword to it. Nonetheless, for most of the people, me and you, and for most of us, the tomato's good. It's a nice fresh tomato. You don't even need to cook it. Just put it in your salad. It's an excellent nutritional fruit, and it tastes great. But with the pizza, you start putting the cheese on it, and an average slice of pizza could be 300, 350 calories. From my neighborhood, back in the old days, you'd have a slice of pizza. It was big as a doormat, and that would be like 500 calories, and we'd eat a bunch of those. But the point is that if we're going to have pizza, you have to limit the amount, eat it slowly, which is just a a great rule of thumb anyway. Just especially when you have when you're hungry and you have a bunch of carbohydrates in front of you or some type of junk food in front of you, eat it slowly. Allow your body to chew it. Like if you're ready to swallow, decide not to. Chew for another 10 or 15 seconds. Keep chewing your food, and the longer you take to eat, what happens is it allows what you're eating to eventually get the blood glucose level up, okay, and then it will shut off that hunger response. So eat slowly. Don't be shoveling it down like it's your last meal. Another popular item that I find with people are the snack bars or the energy bars or the breakfast bars. It's not a bad nutritional choice when you're in a pinch for an extra meal. Okay, it is not, and I've seen people, you know, they come in, they see their food diary log, and it's like for breakfast, a breakfast bar. For the second snack, they had a energy bar, and then they had a trail mix, and what they did is they just worked their whole day out with variety of little peel off the pseudo candy bars and used it as meal replacements. Not a great idea. It's not a bad idea if you're going to have one a day in between certain meals in order to supplement what you're eating to make sure that your metabolic rate doesn't drop, as long as it sticks within the quantity. Now, again, with one of those bars, they could be anywhere between 200 to 220 calories per bar, and it'll give you an idea of the amount of sugars in it and fats in it and proteins. Now, proteins and sugars sort of burn around at the same rate, maybe at about 6 calories per gram, while fats are going to burn higher at closer to 9 calories per gram, meaning that it takes definitely more energy to burn off the fat than it is to burn off the sugars. So you want to read the back of the bar, and then in that case you can portion it out throughout your food diary log. But if it's mainly a protein bar, or mainly like it has a lot of nuts in it and such, you could just put it in the protein section and call it a day, and not to be divvying it up into the fats and the carbohydrates. Just understand that we want to use that type of situation in moderation. Another fan favorite, of course, is the Chinese food, and to be honest with you, you're not sure what you're going to get sometimes. If you're going to have steamed chicken with vegetables, not a bad choice. With some brown rice, not a bad choice. But some of the other dishes that are wrapped in noodles and wontons and such, and depending if it was deep fried or whatever, it could be problematic. It could be more calories than you bargained for. So a good way to sort of discern that, especially, and Chinese food, like other food, people order the same amount. Go on the internet, hit a search engine, get an idea of what a plate of whatever your favorite food is, and keep that as a note if you're going to have it on a frequent basis. Even though the stereotypical situation where you have Chinese food and you're hungry an hour later, you still may be ingesting way too many calories. So we want to be able to curtail that. Okay, but steaming the steamed vegetables and the chicken, not a bad choice. Now, here's where we get into bad choices. Having ice cream at 350 calories a cup. Some of them could be even greater than that. Depending on how high the fat content is on the ice cream. Another notorious killer are cookies. A chocolate chip cookie could be a regular size one, which I don't even know what regular would be, but a regular size one could be 60, 70, 80 calories. But I've seen some of the baked ones at parties and functions. They're as big as a frisbee, and they could be up to who knows, maybe 100, 150 calories per cookie. So we need to be careful with the cookie content. And if you can have cookies in the house, I'm not saying throw them all out, but I'm saying be precautious. Read the back of the label with the cookies, with the candies, and portion it out. If you're going to have that, if you have 3 and it's 180 calories, and you're going to be willing to substitute some other food in the carbohydrate family for that, do that. But you can't go off the chart. You got to stay within your parameters. If not, you're going to start defeating the purpose. Okay? Well, this is the conclusion of understanding the Eat Sheet, and we'll be picking up more about the Dominion diet in the next lesson.